Good afternoon, everybody. It's going to work a little bit different than normal because Chairman Rowe is in the middle of a series of votes. He tells me he's going to be back at 2:15. So we'll do a little pontificating from this rostrum. And then if need be, we might go into a temporary recess. And then as soon as the chairman gets here, we'll proceed on. I'm going to read my statement, then I'm going to read Johnny Isaacson's statement, the chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. Johnny had some surgery last week, and so he couldn't be here in person today, but I understand that he's watching, as Johnny always watches, and so we wish him a quick heal and a hurry back to the United States Senate because he's a quality man. I want to wish you all a good afternoon. To the DAV and auxiliary members, welcome and thank you for traveling literally from every corner of this country to be here today. This is first in a series of joint House and Senate VSO hearings. Commander Riley, I'm honored to have you and your leadership team with us today. I'd like to recognize Joe Parsetich. Joe, where are you at? He said, there he is, Joe Parsetich, commander of the Montana DAV. Joe, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all the work that you do on behalf of veterans across Montana. We're here because Congress should take its cues from you. DAV provides a critical perspective on how veterans are affected by VA policies. We hold these hearings because only VSOs, and not partisan political groups or pundits on cable, can help Congress focus on its oversight and legislative efforts to ensure that veterans have access to quality care and benefits. That means taking cues from you on how to hold the VA accountable, ensure the VA has capacity to meet the needs of all veterans, and fix choice in community care. On this last point, I'm pleased to note that your written testimony highlights how there's agreement among all major stakeholders on a path forward. Rather than just giving a veteran a card to seek care in the private sector, which, by the way, has largely been a disaster in my home state of Montana, the path forward is an integrated network of VA and community providers. This means the VA should continue to serve as a coordinator and primary provider of care while the private sector fills gaps. So I'm hopeful that we acknowledge the broad agreement among folks in this room and among others who use VA and take some meaningful steps to fix the choice program before we extend or expand that program. I commend DAV's campaign setting the record straight to educate policymakers, veterans, and the public about the best way to strengthen and reform veterans' health care. I encourage all of my colleagues and the folks watching from home to see DAV's short video, Putting Choice in Context, exploring the unrealistic visions of choice options. Commander Riley, welcome again. Let me close with a final reference to your testimony. In your written testimony, you mentioned that the VA is, and I quote, a national treasure and an essential resource for millions of veterans, particularly disabled veterans, who choose and rely on VA for all or most of their health care. It's not a perfect health care system. There is no perfect health care system. Well said, Commander. In my book, DAV is a national treasure. So thank you, and thank you for being here. Now I want to read a statement by my friend, Chairman Johnny Isaacson, who I said earlier is recovering from surgery, and we wish him a speedy recovery. Chairman Isaacson's statement goes like this. Welcome to the hundreds of DA members and auxiliary members in attendance, and a special welcome to those who traveled from Washington from Georgia, his home state. I regret that I'm unable to attend the hearing today on February 20th. I was admitted to Emory St. Joseph's Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia for a scheduled operation on my back to address spinal deterioration. Per my doctor's orders, I am at home recovering the rest of this week before returning to Washington. I look forward to returning with a new and improved back to continue working harder than ever on behalf of veterans. As I said, Secretary, let me get this right. As I said at Secretary Shulkin's confirmation hearing, we're about making health care more available to veterans through care in both the private sector and VA. We do not want to privatize the VA. We want to empower it. I look forward to working collaboratively with you and other stakeholders to help improve the care and services for our veterans. That was Johnny's statement for the record. Of course, we wish him a fast recovery, and hopefully he's watching. because Johnny's one of the real good guys that serve here in Washington, D.C. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you for your testimony, Commander Riley. I was talking to Mr. Waltz here to my right, and I don't think there's anything in those comments I disagreed with. So I want to thank you very, very much for putting forth the DAV's perspective on what needs to be done. There seems to be broad agreement that the choice program has been inconsistent at best, disastrous at worst. Either way, it is in need of reform before it's extended or expanded. Commander Riley, would you comment on that?
That's an important issue, sir. I'd like to pass that to my staff for.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, the choice program has had its problems. And as we go forward, you have very eloquently pointed out the need for what we all agree on, along with our fellow VSOs and the Commission on Care and the VA, an integrated health care network that is the primary provider and coordinator of care. Dr. Wenstrup, I understand you're wanting to have a primary care provider for everyone, and we agree that that is a great idea. But we have to be realistic, too, about what's available and what the cost factor is for doing community care. So the integrated healthcare system, we believe, is the best way of controlling the cost, the best way of bringing in providers that will understand veterans' issues, understand the reimbursement situation, because one of the real problems in the current choice program is when doctors don't want to wait for the reimbursement and our veteran patients get billed unnecessarily. It causes a lot of stress, it causes a lot of anxiety, and a lot of confusion. So the integrated healthcare system is, we believe, the best way to control for that. And as you put forth, Senator Tester, it's a way to supplement the VA, not to supplant the VA, because we are all very strong supporters. We all use the VA, we volunteer in the VA, and we even work in the VA. So we believe real choice is best achieved utilizing that model.
Thank you, Mr. Augustine. Senator Rounds talked about making the VA the primary payer. What does the VA believe would be the practical effect of allowing the VA to be the primary payer?
Well, again, whether it's the primary or the secondary payer, anytime you pay for community care, it's taking resources away from the VA system. So our main concern is the resources needed to keep a strong and healthy VA system. And that is what the priority should be in our view.
Okay, thank you. As I mentioned, Congress should take its cues from VSOs like the DAV. Secretary McDonald really set the tone for this with some solid communication. From the executive standpoint, have any of the representatives from the DAV met personally with the President?
We have not. We have made a request, along with our fellow VSOs, to meet with the President or senior staff.
If you had the opportunity to meet with the President, what would be your 3 top priorities to address?
Well, obviously, choice is the subject of the day.
Yep.
Our concern about where it goes from here and making sure it's the right kind of choice, the real choice that we believe veterans will benefit from. Obviously, you heard the commander talk very passionately about the caregivers issue. Yep. Being a Vietnam veteran, I can tell you that I agree with him. My generation is not eligible for caregiver benefits, so yep. Obviously that's the second one, and women veterans, as we pointed out.
Thank you, Mr. Augustine. Thank you, Commander Riley. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.